Today we learned that one of the children exposed to measles here in Oklahoma had gone to a meeting in Houston, Texas, a gospel music meeting. The child became sick with measles after reaching there and could well have exposed a large number of other children attending that meeting. Potential.
By making him plead to 5 of them, we feel like we minimized any opportunity for parole. And so we feel like under the circumstances, the suffering saved the families and the victims, plus the fact that he will be serving probably what the maximum penalty we could give him anyway.
As I say, they're going to find out that the target of the tax increase was really them. If they have a savings account, that's $12 billion more in taxes those people are going to pay, 300% increase in telephone taxes. The small businesses are struggling. We have many of them going bankrupt right now, and included in this bill was over a $6 billion increase in the payroll taxes on small businesses. So there are a whole range of taxes that really are going to affect the average citizen.
November 1978. Jan Eric Cartwright has just been elected Attorney General. It's the highlight of a successful career, a career that in just 15 years has sent Cartwright from OU Law School to Assistant U.S. Attorney, to the State House of Representatives, to Governor David Boren's staff, and to the Corporation Commission. Now, the day before the primary election against Mike Turpin, Cartwright isn't on the campaign trail. He's in his office. Cartwright is proud of the way his staff has performed for the people of Oklahoma. But some of his actions, especially taking on the OIA and the tax breaks they wanted for industry, have caused some to label Cartwright anti-business.
I'm not anti-business, just anti-monkey business.
Cartwright says business hasn't been shackled by his decisions. He points to Oklahoma Now magazine's list of 39 businesses that have either begun or expanded since last July. But that list hasn't stopped the criticism. The harshest blasts have come from Daily Oklahoman editorials. Cartwright says the paper's publisher, Edward Gaylord, is angry because Cartwright's office hasn't been pushed around by Gaylord and his wealthy friends.
We've pushed them away from the cookie jar of obtaining benefits directly and indirectly for themselves, and especially Mr. Gaylord. It's quite obvious that we've messed up his Tea Party, and that's what it basically is. It's not about the people of Oklahoma. It's Eddie Gaylord and his little Tea Party. Eddie Gaylord, the Daily Oklahoman, and the Tulsa World want to control and write the opinions that come out of this office. And as long as I'm Attorney General, they will not do that.
The Attorney General's office has pictures of all the men who have served as the state's lawyer. But Cartwright said there won't be a need for any new pictures. He expects to win tomorrow. Bill Ross, Action 4 at the Attorney General's office. These people were in line to vote at the Trinity Presbyterian Church about 10 a.m. They were a lot luckier than the voters who had shown up here at Precinct 197 when the polls were supposed to open 3 hours earlier.
We were here and no entry at 6:20. I guess they forgot to leave the doors open, or either the persons who were responsible for opening the doors were not here, and we did not get in until 8:20.
These voters finally got in, but the candidates are concerned about voters who left between 7 and 8:20. Senator Melvin Porter is in a Democratic primary battle with Avi Sanio Johnson. One of Porter's backers said Precinct 197 is of special importance to the senator.
This is the senator's heaviest district. It's the old Precinct 10. He's always taken this district, and it's the largest precinct in his district. So we're very much concerned about this problem because it could be an effect on the outcome of the election.
Barber and Senator Porter told Action 4 no decision has been made whether to challenge the election. And then there was Dr. John Moore. Moore was sent from his old polling place to 197. But he couldn't vote at 197 either because his name wasn't on the rolls. The election board says people with similar problems should contact them. Bill Ross, Action 4 at Trinity Presbyterian Church.
It was a festive atmosphere that greeted outgoing OU President Bill Banowski today. Friends and faculty gathered to wish Banowski luck in the future and say goodbye to the man they feel contributed a great deal to the university.
The growth of the university in the past 4 years while he's been here has been phenomenal. And we faculty feel it's going to be a great loss here.
The university has had its most successful years under his administration, and anytime one loses a person of his caliber, I'm sure he'll be missed.
I think he's done a lot for the university, and I just feel that he's a good person, a good man, and Los Angeles is lucky.
Banowski is leaving the school to take a top job with the Chamber of Commerce in Los Angeles. Today he took time out from shaking hands and saying farewell to tell us that his decision to leave was not an easy one, and that he leaves the school feeling good about his performance.
One of the great things about a university is that it's enduring, and whenever you leave it, there's still more to do. And it's that sense of permanence, which is its deepest fulfillment, and that sense of incompletion, which is always present whenever you leave. We accomplished a great deal, and the university has a very bright future.
Banowski leaves the school with numerous accomplishments behind him, including a new library and a drive for excellence in the classroom. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
A viewer writes in and says, I have a will prepared prior to President Reagan's Economic Tax Recovery Act of last year. That will creates a marital deduction trust giving half of my property to my spouse for tax purposes. Under the new act, will my will be interpreted to take advantage of the new unlimited marital deduction? Well, it is doubtful. The act provides that if an individual dies in 1982 and his will contains such a formula, then the old rule limiting that deduction for federal estate tax purposes to the greater of one-half of the estate or $250,000 will still apply if the will was executed before September the 11th, 1981, and local law does not require a different result. In summary, if you have a will that contains such provisions, you probably need to make some changes. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs. A viewer says, I recently was charged over $500 by a plumbing company to fix a water leak that they had estimated could be fixed for $250. I thought the charge was too high and asked for an itemized bill. The company said it did not give itemized bills and that if I did not pay, they would ruin my credit rating. What can I do? Assuming the repairs you described were made at your residence, you may be able to protect your credit rating under federal law. If the plumbing company reports your failure to pay its bill to a consumer credit reporting agency, you may challenge the accuracy or completeness of its report. Under the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act, a consumer credit reporting agency must note the dispute in its files. It must then investigate that dispute within a reasonable time and correct its files unless it finds that your claim is frivolous or irrelevant. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs. A viewer says, I have donated my body to science, and it says so in my will. Now people tell me that my son can do as he wishes with my remains upon my death. What is the truth? A gift of all or part of the body may be made by any adult of sound mind for the advancement of medical or dental science under Oklahoma's Uniform Anatomical Gift Act. The gift may be made by a will or by a document such as a card, carried on the person and signed by the donor in the presence of 2 witnesses. Where the gift of your body is made into the terms of your will, the rights of the recipient created by the gift are superior to the rights of others, subject only to the laws of this state regarding autopsies. Therefore, your gift could not be defeated by your son. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs.
Barred windows. You won't see many of these in rural Oklahoma towns, but you will in this one. We're in Butler, Oklahoma, in western Custer County. This community has recently seen an upsurge in crime, especially vandalism, and they have decided to do something about it. The town started off by hiring a full-time police officer, and then recently imposed a curfew from 1 in the morning until dawn in an effort to control the vandalism. Today, the mayor and the new patrolman showed us the worst-hit areas. Most of them have been downtown and usually result in broken windows and other destruction of property. Patrolman Jess Moore has been quoted as saying he will arrest anyone without a good reason to be out after 1 a.m. But he says that's not what the curfew is really for. It is solely there for the protection of the public. And Moore says he's willing to go all the way when enforcing the new ordinance.
100%. 100%. This town board has given me everything I've asked for to work with, and I can't let them down now.
Besides vandalism, other problems have cropped up in the city of 500, namely burglary. At this DX on Main Street, access was gained by the back way. This incident is not unique in Butler, but store owners believe the curfew should help the problem.
We've been broken into at least 4 times, and I expect it to cut down on the break-ins.
The reason for the increase in vandalism is up for debate. Some say it's laid off oil-filled hands, and others say it's a sign of the times. Either way, other communities are standing up and taking notice of Butler's new stringent measures. The county sheriff said if the whole county operated the way tiny Butler does, his workload would be cut in half. Kevin Ogle, Action 4 in Butler, Oklahoma.
That's a take.
The night of August 10th, a police car westbound on Southwest 29th went through the intersection of Meridian and 29th with sirens on and lights flashing. Suddenly, a car driven by an Edmond man with his family hit the squad car broadside. The result, 2 family members dead and the police officer, Alan Massey, in the hospital. Yesterday, Massey was fired from the police department. In addition, 2 charges of negligent homicide were filed against him.
This accident has been probably as thoroughly investigated as any in the history of this county. And after reviewing all of the reports concerning the accident, the vehicles involved, the intersection, everything, it was my feeling that under all the evidence presented to him, there's no alternative but to file the charge.
The charges against Massey have been the topic of discussion among other Oklahoma City police officers for the last couple of days. But those officers may have to hold judgment until all the facts are known.
I trust and believe and feel that the officers of this police department will not, form radical opinions either way, either for or against the officer, until they've had a chance to sit down, look at the facts, look at the investigation, and look at it.
If Massey is found guilty, he could face a penalty of 2 years in jail and a $2,000 fine. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
Then we won't. I trust and believe and feel that the officers of this police department will not, form radical opinions either way, either for or against the officer, until they've had a chance to sit down, look at the facts, look at the investigation, and look at it. If they think then that the officer was too severely punished, then we will intervene on his behalf. If they think that the punishment was commensurate with the offense, then we won't.
Gasoline prices around the city area for the Labor Day weekend will surprise a lot of holiday travelers. According to AAA officials, prices are down a penny a gallon from the July 4th weekend and are 2 cents lower than this time last year. On an average, Oklahoma City drivers are paying about $1.22 for regular at self-service stations and $1.25 for unleaded. The cost is 10 cents higher at full-service islands. Diesel fuel is also down 4 cents from last year. And most drivers feel OKC is the best place around to top off the tank.
I find the prices here in Oklahoma City real competitive with what I do out in western Oklahoma or even down in Texas. As a general rule, prices here are from 4 to 5 cents a gallon cheaper than they are in western Oklahoma.
Supply will be plentiful, but it might be a good idea to fill up Friday or Saturday. Only 16% of the stations in Oklahoma City will be open on Sunday. If you're just planning on a Labor Day Monday trip, over half the stations in the state will be open. And all weekend long, most interstate filling stations will be operating, but prices there are a bit higher. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
No gas cap.
The 9-woman, 3-man jury had a choice, either sentence Michael Harmon to life in prison or to death by lethal injection. After 5 hours of deliberation, the jurors handed Judge Alan Couch their verdict.
The verdict reads as follows. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn to try the above entitled cause upon our oaths, having found the defendant guilty, assess his punishment at life imprisonment. Signed, Billy Hollis, foreman.
The victim's parents had hoped for a death sentence. They were disappointed by the life sentence, but both said it was what they had expected. Prosecutor Rick Sitzman had asked for the maximum punishment, but he seemed satisfied with the jury's decision.
It appears clear that the jury could not reach unanimity that Mr. Harmon was actually physically responsible for Tammy's death. And given the information and the evidence we had, I'm satisfied with the verdict. I think that it was a fair verdict, and I'm not at all disappointed with the fact that they didn't return the death penalty, although there was evidence there that would have supported it if they had.
Michael Harmon will remain in the Cleveland County Jail. He will be formally sentenced October 19th. Despite his conviction, Harmon still maintains his innocence.
The emotions of the pictures and just circumstantial evidence that I don't think was truly valid that they could convict me on. That's all I have to say. I'm relieved you're not going to die?
Harmon's attorney was relieved his client got life instead of death. He now plans to ask for a new trial.
We've had some evidence come up during the trial that we're going to investigate into. Of course, we'll file the motions to begin an appeal, but I'm looking more seriously at a motion for new trial. I think there was an error committed in allowing the evidence of a conspiracy into this trial. We had to defend Tim Rist and Bob Standridge, and we shouldn't have had to do that without notice.
Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Norman.
The Faith, Hope, and Love Center is located in the Mission Church on the city's northeast side, but the church only houses the center. In its meager surroundings, the center has tried to attract donations from the area to help people who are needy. The donations have come in a little at a time, but the donations are not always things people can use. The people who work here are grateful for the donations, but they urge the community to think before giving.
Check the items, make sure that they are not outdated, especially canned goods. Make sure that they're not swelling, that they are edible and will not cause any harm. And as far as the clothes, we'd like for people to make sure that the clothes are still usable.
The center is in desperate need for clothing, furniture, and food, and it asks that the food be donated in dry or canned form since the center can't afford to buy a refrigerator. If you are interested in helping these people, the number to call is 670-3492. Bella Shaw, Action 4 in Northeast Oklahoma City.
Unemployment has become a grim reality for many Oklahomans. These aren't job applications, they're unemployment forms. And last week, the state paid unemployment benefits to a record 42,500 people. That figure compares to 14,000 people during the same time last year. But for those out of work, there is some good news. Will Bowman, an analyst with the State Employment Security Commission, says a new government program, the Federal Supplemental Compensation Fund, will provide more money for the unemployed.
The new program will provide up to 6 weeks of additional benefits over and above the original entitlement at the same weekly benefit amount the individual had been receiving in their prior spell of unemployment.
The new program goes into effect next Monday. It's part of Reagan's tax package, a package that's also affecting those who are working. And in Oklahoma, even with thousands of jobless, only 3 states in the nation have fewer people out of work. Debbie Mash, Action 4.
A viewer writes in and says, I married a man 3 years ago who had 3 children by a previous marriage. I never legally adopted his children. What are my rights? Well, you're eligible to adopt the children if their mother consents, or if the facts support a judicial termination of her parental rights. Conversely, you have no legal obligation to support the children, nor do you have any claim to their services. If you are now in a divorce proceeding with their father, there is some persuasive authority that might allow you visitation rights, depending on the history of your relationship with the children. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs. An Oklahoma City viewer says, I plan to go into business for myself soon. My friends say I should establish a corporation. What are the advantages of a corporation over a partnership? First, a corporation offers limited liability. That means only the money or property you invest in the corporation is at risk. Second, its existence is not affected by death or withdrawal of its members. Third, your interest in a corporation is easily transferred through the sale of your corporate stock. Also, there can be certain tax benefits attributable to a corporation, and there can be greater accessibility to funds through the sale of your corporate stock. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs. A viewer writes in and says that a California bill collector has been calling me about a bill that I owe. I offered to pay $10 a month, which is all that I can pay. But he said he couldn't accept that, and he demanded $100 now and $50 a month until the debt is paid off. What rights do I have? The collector may not contact you about the debt at a time or at a place that is unusual or known to be inconvenient to you, and not between the hours of 8 p.m. and 9 a.m. Furthermore, he cannot contact you at work if it is known that your employer prohibits such conversations. Also, in many situations, the collector cannot speak to third parties about your debt. And, of course, the collector cannot threaten you with violence or use obscene language or repeatedly call you about the obligation. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs.
Lately, Oklahoma City pawn shops have seen a boost in business from people who had never been in a pawn shop before. It's all a sign of hard times. As more layoffs are announced and unemployment benefits run out, those in need of quick cash run to the pawn shop to sell everything they can, from old fishing poles to wedding rings. At first, it was a shop owner's dream. Now even they are running out of money to buy goods. So as a result, many more shop owners are being more selective about what they do purchase.
I'll tell you, I've talked to some of my friends around, and my boy has a store across town, and it's alleviated a lot of their cash flow. And it's another reason we're tightening up on what we loan on things because of this situation.
There are still some shops that are more quick to buy goods than others, but you may not get the amount of money you want. Pawn shops now have items that at one time were family heirlooms and considered priceless. But as bills pile up and a steady income no longer exists, people are finding many of their belongings do have a going price. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
Claims line 2 and 3, claims line 2.
Mary Moore.
The unemployment office is hardly a paradise. The average wait for just about anything here is an hour and a half, and considering the number of forms to be filled out, writer's cramp and boredom are the two biggest complaints. But there's a new complaint at the Oklahoma City unemployment office from out-of-state job seekers looking for that pocket of prosperity.
Why did you come to Oklahoma City?
Because there's no work in Peoria, Illinois.
And here you sit in the unemployment office.
Yeah, I thought there was work here, the way it sounded.
And that's the way it sounded to another out-of-stater. Meet Rhonda Fischels.
I'm not from here. I'm from Iowa, and up there it's a lot worse. People down here don't know what unemployment is.
Did you move here to find a job?
Yes.
4.5% does sound nice in comparison to the 15 and 16% rates buffeting many other parts of the country. But that low rate is deceiving to the out-of-state job seeker.
We see a lot of people from the north and the east who are on their last leg, so to speak. They are extremely depressed, really unhappy, and they get down here with dreams of golden streets, and they find out the reality is somewhat less pleasant than that.
Many will eventually find their golden street here in Oklahoma City. For others, the wait has just begun. Dan Slocum, Action 4.
It's for the Heart Fund, and it's also not just to raise money, but to get the older people involved, and they're raising the money, and they're walking and rolling and rocking for the Heart Fund, and the dance contest is just a little bit of fun. It gives them a chance to talk, get out, dance. We're dragging them out, but they like it once they're dragged onto the floor.
Fire poles have for years added drama to being a fireman. Firefighters quickly slide out of sight and into possible danger. But their greatest danger may be the poles themselves. Some firemen never make it to the trucks.
A lot of times they wake up in the middle of the night, they're still somewhat groggy, they maybe have been out half the day and half the night working fire alarms and emergency calls. And then they, at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, they wake up and they may be quite groggy, and trying to slide down a pole hole is very hazardous. And that's a particular time when sometimes we do get some injuries from that.
But the only poles in Oklahoma City's newest fire stations are the flag poles. Firefighters here at station number 6 have an easier route to their trucks. Their bunks are just a few steps from the fire trucks. There are no poles. The new stations are all single level. Firemen say their response time is just as quick. They simply reduced their injuries and lost a bit of nostalgia. Debbie Mash, Action 4.